All right, hey y'all. We're going to do a video on exotic radiography today. So we're going to just go through some of the basics here, and then we'll actually get Patty out and take an x-ray of her just for demonstration purposes. You guys, of course, have a whole chapter on exotic radiography a little bit later in exotic course. And then, of course, next semester, you have an entire course of radiology in which you'll do some exotic x-rays too. So if we don't have a chance to see your bearded dragons, don't worry, we'll have a chance at some point to get them in and maybe take an x-ray of them. So just real quick, going over some of the basics, we're looking at our x-ray machine here. We're using our tabletop today, as we will with every x-ray that you'll take with our digital unit. We have our x-ray monitor up here where we will set our settings. So this determines for us, based on what buttons we push, how strong the x-ray is going to be, how long the x-ray will last, all of those things that you will eventually learn about in x-ray class. But a couple of things that are important is this guy up here, this big metal Tootsie Roll looking thing. This is your tube head. And that's important to know because when we do some of our exotic x-rays, we actually want to be able to position our tube head in a way that makes it possible for us to do what's called a horizontal beam. So this setup would allow for us to take an x-ray with a horizontal beam of an animal that we can't get to lay on their side for a true lateral x-ray. So I'll show you that demo after we take Patty's x-ray here in a little bit. Now, for the most part, the big thing with exotic animal x-rays is being able to contain them in such a way that we are not restraining the animal, especially within the primary beam. So the primary beam, I'll shut the light so you guys can kind of see, is this square that lights up, and anything that's inside that square is going to be x-rayed. When we talk about x-ray safety, there's also the potential for scatter radiation, and that's something we want to be aware of too. So we try to make the light as small as we can around whatever picture it is that we're taking. So I have that guinea pig on the table, and we've got the square lit up for just his little body. Okay, so for the guinea pig, he's so small, and his little legs are just so tiny. How am I going to possibly hold him still to take the x-ray? We're not going to be able to. So in cases where the animal is able to, we can just put him in a box. So that's what we're going to do with our little guinea pig. So we'll plop him in the box, just like so, happy little camper. And we want a box that's small enough to make sure he's not just going to wiggle around a whole lot, because we want the animal sitting perfectly still when we expose that x-ray. So we'll just put him in this box, we'll call it good. We'll put him on the table, and we would set our settings and take the x-ray, okay? Now for a lateral, guinea pig lateral, it is kind of difficult to get the potato to lay on his side, and again, without holding him. So in that instance, we could again do a horizontal beam if we needed to have a lateral view. You guys will learn in x-ray class, that you maybe already have, that we want at least 2 views minimum with every x-ray we take, because we're looking at a 3D object. We want to have as many views as possible. So that's where, again, having him lay like this would be what we call a dorsoventral position. And then we, again, would not be able to have him in lateral. So we would have him laying in DV, but we would turn our tube head so it goes through his body, again, in that horizontal fashion. So same thing with any other small creature you're wanting or needing to x-ray. If you had a smaller little rodent, same kind of thing, scoop his little body up and put him into a box. Whether or not you use a lid is up to if the animal is trying to escape from your box. This one maybe is a little big for him because he could probably move around, but for today's purpose, I think it'll work, and we'll just put the lid on. If this was a real animal, of course, I'd have air holes poked for him, right? Again, take your measurements, set your settings, and take your x-ray, okay? So that's pretty much the tip and trick for just about any species, right? Now, a bird is going to be different in that we would actually have a perch within the box for that bird to perch upon, so that again, he's hopefully holding still. Now, if you have to, yes, you can use drugs to sedate or maybe anesthetize your little guys. But likely, if they're sick enough that they need an X-ray, they probably aren't going to want to be sedated or anesthetized. Okay, so just a couple things to keep in mind. Now we'll get ready for Patty. Okay, so we have Patty in her little box here, and we have collimated our light source down. Now, hopefully she'll stop moving so that we can take an X-ray again with no movement. Any motion on the film will make it harder to visualize what it is we're trying to look at, okay? Let's see, is this box any smaller for you? That's a little too small, okay. You just sit still. Now I'm gonna step out of the room and expose this because I'm not wearing any of my PPE. And if I don't need to be in the X-ray room, it's best to not be. You stay still, little one. Okay, so we just took the X-ray and it'll pop up on this screen as well as our screen behind us. Yep, looks okay. Looks like we were able to get it without a bunch of motion. So that is pretty good, pretty easy. And then of course, you'll be able to just go back. The doctor can view that radiograph as needed. Good job, Patty. Oh. Hi. Okay, so that was just a couple tips and tricks on taking exotic X-rays. Like I said, we'll have another chance to do this with you guys here in person, as well as taking your X-ray class next semester. But just to give you kind of a taste of what it is like, put the exotic animal in a box and take the X-ray. As you can kind of see on the screens behind me, the pictures that showed up showing us that we were able to get a pretty good view of her without a whole lot of motion or artifact. And then it does also show up on the viewer behind us as well. So that is just your little taste of exotic X-ray.